Hi, my name is Shelley Grafstein, and I'm a life coach for Jewish women over 60 who are sick and tired of struggling with food. I know what the struggle is like because I've been where you are, and I know it's terrible. This isn't a how-to video, and it's not full of tips and tricks. It's just my personal story because I know somewhere in my story, you're going to see bits and pieces of yourself in it. So I started off as a regular little kid, great family, a lot of friends. And wasn't until I turned the age of 12 when I was on the gymnastic team at junior high school that I ran into problems. My mother loved to cook. She had written a cookbook called Cooking to Say I Love You. And the way to show our love to her was to eat her food. And that kind of conflicted with my own personal goals of being an amazing gymnast. Never made that goal, by the way. And I used food as a control over my life. My mother was very strong. I was very quiet and meek, and that I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. And I found that using food as my control, my weapon, was great. So at 12, I became anorexic. At 15, I became bulimic. At 18, I had other eating issues, not as disabling or severe, but the stacking effect of eating disorders was no fun. In university, I tried to do a research paper on eating disorders, and there was literally nothing. One or two tiny paragraphs about anorexia, nothing about bulimia, nothing about any eating disorders. I was really on my own to figure it out. And it took a long time. I tried every diet, I tried every trick that they had at that time in the 70s and the 80s, but it was mostly about dieting, looking good, looking great for your man, showing up for your man, being this perfect body. Then Twiggy was in, and then it was muscular, but it was all surface level. It was always about food. No one ever went deep. And slowly, I started learning to see food as nourishment. That's what it is. Food is neutral. It's nourishment. It's not the enemy. It's not your best friend. And after decades of a lot of hard work, self-work, like really deep inner work, a lot of study, a lot of compassion, a lot of curiosity, I got to the other side. And now I can honestly say I have a great relationship with food. And I assumed I was a latecomer to the party, that other women had eventually conquered this much earlier than I did. But I started coaching 5 years ago professionally, and I discovered no matter what women came to see me for, they had food issues. And they had terrible relationships with themselves, a lot of self-sabotage, a lot of lack of boundaries, and a lot of secret eating. And I discovered emotional eating still haunted them, no matter what their background, no matter how successful they were in other areas. And I realized it wasn't about the food at all. It was about the emotions we were never taught to feel, right? You know, you see these parents that they're outside with their kids, and the kids could say, Mommy, I'm so hot. Can I take my sweater off? You're not hot. You have to be cold. Keep your sweater on. Or, Mommy, I'm too full to finish my plate. If you don't finish everything on your plate, you don't get to go out to play with Shoshana or whatever. You know, we're taught from a very young age that someone knows how we feel better than we do. We're never taught to name emotions. We're really taught to eat our emotions. You do well at school, you get a treat. You clean a room, you get a treat. You answer something at school, you get a treat. You don't do something, you get dessert withheld. You don't get the cake. You don't get this. You don't get that. It's food is really used as a reward and a weapon. When we're growing up. So what really helped me, like the tools that helped me, as I mentioned, was curiosity, compassion, self-study. I took a holistic nutrition course in my 40s, and I learned a lot about nutrition. That helped me clean up my food plan a lot so that I felt more nourished and felt healthy. And then I learned EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping, you know, probably seen it. My gosh, that was a game changer. I did addiction training. I got certified to be an addiction coach. I learned about alignment of values. I learned about inner child work, journaling, meditation, just being alone with yourself, your self-talk, your self-compassion. working with the nervous system, all of those, huge. And that's what really, really brought me to total healing. And I realized there's a reason food became my safe place. The healing didn't come from control. It came from understanding. The problem came from control, but the healing came from understanding. Why does food struggles persist like crazy? I don't know about other cultures, but I know in the Jewish culture, it's like there's a huge emphasis on food. Every celebration, every connection, it's comfort. It's really our best friend. Women get together. They get together for food. You know, no one ever gets together to go rollerblading, to go swimming, and always, not always, so many of the times it's centered around food. I know when I get together with friends, I love to go for a walk, and it's like, well, why don't we go for a cup of tea and something to eat? No, I really want to go for a walk. I happen to be a walking addict, but that's beside the point. But everything is about food. The Shabbat dinner, you know, tons of food Friday night, tons of food Shabbat day, the Shalashudas, the Oneg Shabbat, the Malava Malka, it's food. The Jewish holidays, food. And as Jewish women, we're taught to be people pleasers. We're taught to hide all of our negative emotions. We're taught to avoid conflict, to be this little Madel, this, you know, pretty little Jewish girl that kind of sits in the shadows and supports her husband. And that kind of turns us into a pretzel because we have feelings, we have emotions, we want to express them, we want to be who we are, and we can't. We're not taught. We're not taught at all. And we're taught to use food to cope, but no one taught us how to feel. No one taught us how to set up boundaries. No one taught us how to deal with conflict in a natural, proper way. So it's not like this, but it's a beautiful relationship. And you can have conflict. Everybody has conflict. It's impossible not to have conflict. So I've dieted for decades. I've tried everything and I felt trapped for so many decades. And you're not alone. You are definitely not alone. You don't need another food plan. You don't need another diet. You don't need Wegovy. What you need is a new relationship with yourself. And that's the work I do. Okay, that is what I specialize in. My women have had massive transformations, literally massive transformations, where they go back and look at themselves when they came to me and who they are now, and they are totally different people. So if you're ready to explore what's really going on underneath your eating, I made a free guide for you called 7 Questions to Understand What's Really Driving Your Eating. And that's a first step. The link is below. It's a gentle but powerful way to begin. I'm here whenever you want to reach out. And I'm so happy, would be so happy to help you and be your guide on this journey.